Hey guys, this is Turtle from Lexy's Help Desk, and I'm here to talk to you about troubleshooting dark face bug. So, when you go through Lexy's guide during part 3 and the merge page, right, there are a lot of steps regarding making all of the different NPC visual overhauls work together. And there are a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. This step in the guide is really designed before you start playing to make sure that everything's taken care of. So what is dark face bug? Dark face bug happens when the game looks for the assets that help generate the mesh of a person's face as well as the textures for that mesh. Okay? The game looks for those records and it can't find the assets. So the records themselves are stored in the plugins on the right side of MO2. Over here in the right pane, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see this merge right here, npc retexture merge sse.esp. Now this file is the one that you created on the merge page that contains all of the information about the NPCs that we edit in our guide. So the game mostly is looking for all the records there, and it then tries to load the assets listed in this plugin on the left side. But you need to make sure that the correct version of each file is winning for every single NPC. There are over 2,000 some that the guide touches, and so going through that manually is not really feasible. Fortunately, there's a new tool relatively recently that's come out that we're going to use, and that's called the Dark Face Issue Reporter. So if you're following the guide, you should have seen the link to download that off of the Nexus, okay? The Dark Face Issue Reporter, and the files that you need are this main one right here, and then we're also going to use the optional ignore file. So what you need to do is you need to download this, and probably it's easier to download it manually as opposed to through MO2 because we're going to install it into Xedit. So you're then going to take that archive and extract it so that the files end up in your SSE edit/edit scripts folder. So you can see here I've already extracted it. I've got the library folder here. I've got, as I scroll down, I've got the Darkface Issue Reporter ini, the script file, as well as the ignore file. Okay, so this is the structure that you want to see after you install it. So what we are going to do first is we're going to open up the ini file and take a look on the inside. And there are a few settings that you want to change so that it generates the correct logs. So first is change the debug log file to true. Then change the console command batch file to true. What this will do is if you actually find broken NPCs using this script, it'll create a file that you can use in-game to automatically spawn all of them. And then you can check them out and find out whether, in fact, they are broken. This create darkface collector should also be true. This will create a plugin that has all of the data that you need. That'll help you quickly identify in Xedit which of the NPCs are broken. Okay, so after you've made those changes, if you're following the guide, you're also going to download a custom ignore file to replace this one. It's not a strictly necessary step, but it'll help ignore some NPCs that we already know are broken, that we can't do anything about, or that don't actually spawn in-game, so you can just safely ignore them. So for instance, right now, at the time of this video, Torolf, we know it's the face gen from the NPC overhaul that we use is broken. So when that ultimately gets updated, then we'll take it out of the ignore file, but for now you can ignore it. And then there's some other people that either appear in leveled lists or are test NPCs that don't actually appear in game that we are ignoring. Okay, so once you've done that, okay, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take all of our plugins, make sure everything's active in the right pane, and load up Xedit. Highlight SSE edit in your executable bar, press run, and when choose modules pops up, choose OK, and it's going to load all of your plugins, just like every time that we use Xedit with Lexy's guide, we're going to just click OK when the mod groups panel shows up, because mod groups are not used with this guide. So once this is all fully loaded, we're going to go over to the left pane here, and we're just to speed things up, we're only going to highlight certain files. Okay, you could run this on your entire load order, but the retexture section really only you only need to run it on a few. So we're going to highlight the following files. So highlight the left by left clicking, highlight Skyrim.esm. Scroll down to 3D-npc.esp. That's interesting NPCs. Hold down the Shift button and left click. That'll highlight all of these. And you just need to make sure that the master plugins are highlighted, that RS Children, Legacy of the Dragonborn, and Interesting NPCs are highlighted. Okay, those are the main ones to check. But for ease, we'll just highlight them all. You then right-click, choose Apply Script. And under the script section, you're going to scroll down until you find Darkface Issue Reporter. Click OK. When you see this, you're going to choose number 2, Run Only for Selected Files or Records. And once you click this, it will start running the script, and you'll see a whole list of records that are being checked start to appear in the messages box. You'll see when it's done, it'll say script has finished, and you can then move on to the next step. I've already generated some files for us to look at, so you don't have to watch me do it. So once the script is finished running, you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the left pane, and you'll see that Xedit has created a new file that's called darkfacecollector.esp. Now, you'll see that I have a couple here because I've created a few different scenarios for us to look at as far as troubleshooting. You'll only see one, and it'll be in bold because you haven't saved it and it's a new plugin that hasn't been edited. What you're going to do is you're going to click on the plus button to expand it, and you'll see that one of two things will happen. Either you'll see just a file header with no NPC row. That's what you want, okay? So when I generated this plugin, there were no NPCs that were identified as having Darkface. That's great. If this is what you have, you're done. You win. You did the install correctly. Nobody in your game has Darkface. And you can close this video, move on, or keep going to learn some more. Right? But if you have found some NPCs with Darkface, what you'll see is this row will be here. And if you expand it, you'll see that there are now a few different people. And so you can click on them to see what's going on. Here, you can see I only have yellow and red rows. That's because I have applied this, hide no conflict and empty rows. If you right-click anywhere in this right pane, you can do this. I recommend you make sure this is checked because it's easier to find the relevant records. So in this case, you can see the head parts, this is what we're looking for, show that the winning file, in this case, is coming from the bashed patch. These are the head parts that the game is going to go to in order to load the face assets, the mesh and the texture. But when it goes there, it doesn't find the assets, okay? And in this case, it's actually finding the assets from this row, from Diverse Skyrim, okay? So this is an example of a person with Darkface. The same thing is true in these as well, but these player characters actually, if you spawn them in-game, are fine. They either don't spawn in-game or they, when you actually look at them, they don't have Darkface because they don't have a face, right? This is a Wraith Knight and this is a Shadow Hunter, and there's no face. So functionally it doesn't matter. But this plugin that's created is you can now save and use as a reference as you're troubleshooting to figure out where you made the mistake. Also, after you close Xedit, if you go to your Skyrim main install, right, so Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Skyrim Special Edition, and if you, I'm going to change this to a list to make it easy to see, but if you scroll all the way over here to the right, it's also created these files here, DFIR, with 2 numbers, .text. Okay, and you can see there's a few different ones, and these are batch files that you can load in the console to automatically spawn all of these people that, in a different build, were identified as being broken. And all you do is you open the console and type BAT space DFIR00. You leave off the .txt, the extension of the file, and then it'll just spawn them all wherever you are in game. So it's really useful in troubleshooting. The one thing you do want to make sure of is that you've disabled the face discoloration fix in MO2 before you decide to spawn the NPCs. Otherwise, you won't see whether or not they still have dark base. The discoloration fix will make them look normal. Okay, so hopefully you didn't have anybody show up, but maybe you did, right? And there's probably 2 main patterns that you are going to see as you try to troubleshoot this, okay? The first and the easiest, right, is that when you open this up, you only see maybe 1 record, okay? So if you downloaded the custom ini, the ignore ini, and put that in, then these records are not going to show up because we know that they're fine, so we are going to ignore them for you, and you don't need to worry about it. This should already be fixed in a most recent build. But in this case, it's saying, well, Brynjolf has Darkface. So I must have done something wrong when I went to install this. So right, it's just a single record, right? So what we're looking at here is that the winning records are coming from the NPC retexture merge. That's probably what we want, okay? And now we need to figure out where the assets should be coming from. So fortunately, Lexy has put in a lot of work to help you answer this. So if you go to her website, on the NPC retextures table page, there is a nice table with every single NPC that the guide modifies, their form ID, and which mod should be winning in both the left pane and the right pane. Great. If you're looking at this video shortly after this new retexture merge has gone live, it's going to take some time to update this table. In the meantime, you can go, there's a Google Doc here, right? The link is on the Discord. On the Discord, you can see it here, and it has all the information here. It's just not as easily searchable on the website. So if the NPC table is down because it's being updated, go here and you'll find it. So in this case, I'm going to scroll down to Brynjolf here. And you can see here is the form ID that we saw in Xedit. And the winning asset should be coming from Pandorable's NPC's males. Okay, so let's go back to Mod Organizer 2 and see what we can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up until I find Pandorable's males in the NPC retexture section. I'm going to scroll down. Where is it? Where is it? Here. If you want to find it quickly, you can also use the filter at the bottom of the left pane, MALES, Pandorable's males. Double-click on the mod. If you go to the Conflict tab and the Advanced tab, you will see all the files that are contained in this mod, which mods it overwrites, that file overwrites, and which are overwritten by. What we want to do is we want to type in the form ID for Brynjolf into this filter. So let's go back to Xedit, and we can see that it is 1B07D. I'm going to type that in here, 1B07D. This is Brynjolf. And you can see we want Pandorables to be winning. I messed up and I accidentally hid the file. So I need to unhide this file. And like that, I have just quickly fixed my problem with Darkface. So if there's something that's overwriting it, that means that you forgot to hide this version. If this one is hidden, then you need to unhide it. And if it's something different, well, then you're going to have to troubleshoot more. Maybe you installed the mod wrong. Maybe it's in the wrong place in the left pane. Who knows? I'm not going to go into that. But you've got the idea of basically how to troubleshoot that. So, and then if you go and now spawn Brynjolf in-game, you'll see that the Darkface is fixed. If you want to rerun Xedit, you can. You probably don't need to. Okay. That's the first pattern. That's the easy one. The harder one potentially is if you see this pattern in Xedit where there's a ton of people, right? Is there any way that you really messed up that many files being hidden? Well, it's possible, but it's probably not the issue. In this case, what's more likely is that you created the merge incorrectly. So if you go to the merge page on Lexy's website, here you'll see the order that the plugins need to be listed during the merge. And so what I would do is, in this case, is I would go back and verify that you actually did that correctly. So in this case, I'm going to clear my filter. I'm going to go to Merge Plugins Hide. I'm going to unhide the NPC retexture merge. And you always want to unhide the merge before you switch profiles so that it keeps the order of the plugins correct. I'm going to switch over to NPC retexture merge and then verify that all of these plugins are in the correct order. Okay? If something's in the wrong order, then fix it, rebuild the merge using zmerge, right, go back, hide all your plugins again, and then I would run Darkface issue reporter again, because hopefully that'll solve the problem. Now, if you've rebuilt the merge, you know that it's right, and there are still problems, then it gets even a little trickier. The next step then in that case actually is to do this. To go into Xedit, and you are going to find this file, Lexy's LOTD SE Omega conflict resolution. And what you're going to do at this point is you're going to right-click and choose Check for Errors. And the reason that you're going to do this is that the merge is dependent on or the conflict resolution is dependent on the merge being built identically to the way that Lexy built it. Okay? And so if you have the wrong version of a plugin, if you have the wrong order of a plugin, and the form IDs are changed even by one in the wrong direction, the conflict resolution will have errors in it. And you can see that's the case here. So right, these tint layers, you can ignore tint layers. Those are not an issue. But here, you can see that there's a keyword that error couldn't be resolved. So this line, Riften location, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double-click that. I'm going to hold down Shift or Control and double-click it, and it'll take me to that record. Okay, and you can see here, error could not be resolved. Okay, this is an indication that your merge is still wrong. Okay, and you'll need to go back and double check every version of every file and make sure that it's correct. If you're still having problems with that, come over to the Discord on the installation help page, because there are some other things that we can do, actually looking at the map of how zmerge mapped the new form IDs to help figure that out, but I'm not going to go into that in this video because that's a little bit more advanced. But hopefully this gives you enough to troubleshoot most of your problems. Once you know that your Darkface issue reporter isn't reporting any more NPCs, move on to the next step. This is a great way to troubleshoot NPCs, even if you're not following Lexy's guide. I mean, the difference is that you need to know where the assets are supposed to come from as opposed to being able to use Lexy's retexture table. And that's kind of it. Hope this was helpful. If you have questions, come over to the Discord. We're always happy to help. Best of luck with the rest of your install.